I'm so thrilled to be part of the panel today here at the Financial Planning Institute as we celebrate World Financial Planning Day. My name is Ronald. I'll be your moderator this morning, and today we're going to explore some common themes and misconceptions perhaps around financial planning, and we'll just try and unpack what financial planning means for us as normal South Africans going about our day-to-day lives. As we celebrate, to help me unpack this very exciting day today, I'm just going to start by introducing our panelists today, starting with our CEO at the Financial Planning Institute, Lion Xavier. And next to her is two of our experts that are going to help us today. That's Jason, and tonight will be also taking us through the program today. And to my immediate right, just want to introduce who is the head of certification at the Financial Planning Institute. Before we get started, maybe I'll just start with a few housekeeping issues that we just want to get out of the way. Look, today is an interactive session, so we definitely want a lot of interaction, a lot of debate, hopefully, but a lot of personal insights if you're comfortable to share those. But be that as it may, please remember that it is a very respectful space. We expect a very diverse crowd today, so please just try and keep your comments tasteful, for lack of a better word. And also just another thing I wanted to highlight is that today's session is not a financial planning session. So what you'll hear today is general financial principles and is not meant to not be taken as financial advice. All right, maybe to get us kicked off, I'll start with you, Lelani. If you can just unpack what is World Financial Planning Day and why should South Africans even think about it?
I'm super excited about the World Financial Planning Day. South Africa is one of the affiliates of the Financial Planning Standards Board, and there's about 27 affiliates worldwide. So this is actually the 16th World Financial Planning Day that we are celebrating, and the theme is Live Your Today, Plan Your Tomorrow. But Ronald and team, it's very important to take note that World Financial Planning Day and World Financial Planning Week for South Africa also coincides with IOSCO's Investor Week. So who is IOSCO? IOSCO, in short, is an organization where all the regulators from across the globe sit, and where they talk about matters that impacts us globally, like Finfluences. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And the representative from South Africa is none other than the Commissioner from the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, Unathi Kamlana. So welcome. We are officially opening World Financial Planning Day, #number 16.
Thanks, Lelani. I do share your excitement today. And maybe to get things kicked off, Jason, let's start with you. In the context of savings, I mean, savings is quite topical in South Africa. And in fact, according to Stats SA, only 6% of South Africans will be able to retire comfortably on the savings that they have. So if you can maybe just kick us off, how does building savings today prepare you for tomorrow?
Thanks, Ronald. I think it's just to touch on just retirement firstly. I think we always look at the end goal being retirement when we save and invest and all of those things. But I do think that tomorrow counts too. So just tomorrow, and having a little bit amount of savings that's just available for tomorrow's emergencies or kind of unexpected expenses. I think that's the purpose of a savings account or any savings. I think retirement is one of those vehicles that we can save for and we can invest for. But I do think that the everyday problems that we face is where the savings comes in handy. So I do think that small savings, every little bit counts. And I mean, people struggle to save. I mean, you read the stat there, not just for retirement, 6% for retirement, but I can tell you now, 70% of South Africans aren't saving on a day-to-day basis, on a monthly basis, and I think that's important. So building small habits to save every day or every month, those are the savings that we need to start stressing.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. But maybe I'll pause this to you, Tsungai. If I come to you and I say, look, you've seen the stats, it's so difficult to save, and I say to you, well, I need to have additional funds or surplus funds to save, and if I don't have any surplus funds to save, then surely you can't expect me to save. I mean, what would you say to that?
So it's a great question. We get it all the time because people are already fast stretched in the current economic environment. But I always say there are two ways you can skin this cat. The first one is you go lean. All right, so what can I cut off in my budget so that I can actually create a surplus? A lot of people will have luxury items, as I would call them. This could be entertainment, different types of subscription, channels, opportunities, etc. So look for the things that are not essential. All right? Think non-essentials. So if something is not essential, i.e. you will not die tomorrow because you don't have it, number one, and number two, you're not going to be in the book of bad debtors because you don't pay your subscription or your monthly bill, then cut that out. So the first strategy is go lean. Take out all the unnecessary expenses. Then the second strategy, which I always advocate for, because there's just so much cutting you can do, and a lot of people have already cut all that they can. So the second strategy is creating multiple streams of income. So I always say every single person under the sun has what I call a bankable gift. So you've got a talent, something that you can monetize. It could be your voice, you can speak it, you can become an MC. It could be you being crafty or handy, you can find a product, you can start selling. So what is it that you're good at that you can start monetizing, that you can start offering people as a solution to a problem that they have? If you're good at crafting, all right, the problem is people love gifts, all right, and they want gifts with a story behind them. So tell a story whilst you're crafting, while you're preparing your handiwork. If you're good with nails, okay, there are women all over. I mean, look at the three of us here. 100% of us actually have their nails done. So that's your thing.
It's for you today.
Go out there and start with your friends doing nails for a paid fee. So there's always something you can do, in my opinion. But if you can create multiple streams for yourself, do that, because I feel that's the most fail-proof option in terms of creating surplus that you can then start saving on a regular basis.
Sorry, Madonna. I love what you guys said. I think what's so important, and I've also seen when my kids were smaller and still in school, this is exactly what we should teach our children as well, is this entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
And that's what they do in school with entrepreneurs. They're teaching them to budget. One of my colleagues and myself had a conversation in the last 2 weeks about what their school expected of the grade, I think it was grade 8s, just to go in and market themselves, make sure
That's
that they're
14
all
years
budgets.
old.
And there's a very big element of something that you can learn while you're still small that will really assist you going forward. As you say, the side hustle, in many South Africans' eyes, is a big thing to make sure that you can actually meet your obligations.
Absolutely.
If I may, Mr. Moderator, there's 2 or 3 things that I picked on. So you mentioned grade 8, which is 14 years old, and I don't know if you know, but in terms of the Wills Act, when you're 14 years old, you may actually sign as a witness already. So 14 is a very important age to make sure that the young ones understand money. But 2 things. One thing I wanted to ask Jason as a consumer here now, and I've got a question for Tsungai as well. So as a consumer, there's a lot of confusion in terms of how much should we have saved as an emergency fund? Is it 1 times your annual salary? What is that amount?
Yeah, so an emergency fund I look at a little bit differently. I think there's 2 types of emergency funds that you could possibly build. Your big one where you say it's 3 to 6 months of my income or expenses that I want to save for those big emergencies if I lose my job or if I lose my income. That's an important strategy to have and something that you should be putting in place, having an emergency fund that will back those big things. But I think a baby emergency fund is important too. So a baby emergency fund, my wife and I did this when we got married. We thought this big emergency fund is something that is going to take years to build. It's going to we need something that, money is a mindset. You have to think about your money differently. So we need milestones to reach. We need small goals that will lead to these big goals. And I think the small one for us was a very simple one, build a 20,000 Rand baby fund, baby emergency fund. And from that place, it took a few months for us to build that, or a year to build that. But now, when my tire bursts on the street, I use that to pay, and I continue to fill that up. And I think those small emergency funds are key. And you can look at your own income, and you can take your 1 month's expenses and essential expenses, all the essentials, and that's a good place to start because it might be 2 or 3 bills that you can then save 1 month's worth of debit orders, and that's an emergency fund. So if you can't pay your debit order next month on those 3 accounts, at least you've got money to pay them. And I think that's what I was mentioning earlier about those small incremental savings things. If you can just start small, get that mindset right, and you've achieved your first goal, and then you can go into the next one.
So what I'm hearing, and then I'll give my question to Tsonga as well, is I'm hearing that discipline plays a very big role here. It's about consistency, it's about integrity, it's about sitting with your partner every month when that salary hits the account and say, what are we going to do this month, what is the plan? So it's really, discipline is very, very important with like anything in life, a diet, making sure you fit, but also financial fit, professionalism. But so now the one thing I wanted to ask you, so why the need for a financial advisor and or financial planner? So can a financial planner help me with financial management in the sense of personal liquidity? You spoke about where we need to cut. Can a financial advisor or a planner actually help you with that?
Absolutely, I love that, and I'll tell you what happened this morning as I was driving here on my hands-free Bluetooth telephone.
Always that.
So
As long as you know,
disclaimer. So what
Safety
actually,
first.
safety first, because I still need to do planning for the next 50 years. So what actually happened was I was having a conversation with a client, and they have a decision they want to make. Do they move out of the place they're currently staying to a more expensive apartment, but in that more expensive apartment they'll still need Uber, right?
Okay.
Versus staying where they are at the moment, but buy a car. So it's cheaper boarding, afford a car, more expensive boarding, but still be on Uber. So I think when you talk about financial planning, it's got to do with everything from simple money management. So just being able to make those good quality financial decisions, we are there. And it doesn't have to be complicated, all right? We are there to help you understand, A, how your money works, but most importantly, how your money can start working for you and how it can also work for future generations. And there are various elements to financial planning that help you achieve various goals and outcomes in your productive stages, less productive stages, and even while you've been buried in a 6 feet under, your money could still be working for your loved ones.
That's true.
So a financial planner's role, I see it as a lifetime partnership. We help you with accountability. We help you put in place the right kind of structures that ensure that your wealth can transcend your own life, all right? We help make sure that you've got someone who can give you an objective opinion. Because if you ask your mom, you ask your sisters, you ask your brothers, everyone will tell you what you want to hear. But I'll come here as a good quality, candid spokesperson in your life as well. So I think the role of a financial planner is quite broad, but most importantly, we help you become a better custodian of your funds.
Yeah. No, I think that I love exactly what you said, how you ended on that. Honestly, it's I think it's something that we always take for granted. Do we really need to use a professional? When my mom's done well and she always gives good advice on other matters, surely she can continue giving me advice on money matters as well. So thank you for making that distinction. I think part of your role as financial planners, particularly over the last month or two, with this two-part retirement system that has come into play, has been fielding questions around that, and there's just a bit of lack of clarity, if I can call it that, from consumers out there on whether they can dip into those savings or not, or when they should hold back. So maybe Tsonga, I'll just kick off maybe from you. What are you seeing around two-part at the moment from a consumer angle, and what sort of nuggets can you leave with our consumers today around how they should approach this new era that we find ourselves in?
So the savings culture in South Africa is almost non-existent. Okay. Earlier on, you mentioned a statistic that approximately 6 out of every 100 people are able to retire comfortably. All right. So what Two-Pot has actually done is it split every amount you're saving into your pension, profit, and retirement annuity into 2 key pots. All right. Your savings withdrawal pot, or the savings component, and what we call the retirement component. So the retirement component will never, ever, ever be accessible until you retire. So what it's doing is, it's enabling people to actually have something to live off by the time they retire. Then comes the big kahuna, the elephant in the room, okay? With my savings pot, what do I do? First thing is, don't touch it.
Please.
Unless you really need to. You cannot borrow from your neighbor, you cannot borrow from your mother, you cannot borrow from your auntie's great aunt. Use it as an option of last resort. And why I say that is, just because it's accessible does not mean that it's the right kind of money to be using, all right? In actual fact, I feel it's probably expensive money to be accessing, because you actually take that money and you get taxed at your marginal tax rate. So if you are in a 45% tax bracket, that is the opportunity cost, that is the cost of accessing those funds, all right? It's costing you 45% to access that money.
A lot more than a loan or any other thing.
Way more expensive. So I would say only touch that honey pot if and only if it's an outright last option. You have nothing else at your disposal to actually use. So first thing is, don't touch it. Second thing is, please do not touch it. And third thing is, only touch it if and only if you have no other alternatives.
It's the red light, do not touch.
You know what, Ronald, if I may, just quickly, we may have some people listening to us today, just what is this two-part? So just remember, it's part of National Treasury's retirement reform that we've seen, I think it's about 15 years already. It started quite a few years ago. And I agree with what our practicing certified financial planner Tinga is saying here, but I do want to stress and make it very clear, bear in mind, you will be taxed at your marginal tax rate. So if you do drive on the N1 from Pretoria to Johannesburg, you'll see that even SARS, the South African Revenue Services, has put a very big billboard to say, make sure you know your tax status before you apply to touch your savings pot. Because once you've applied to withdraw from your savings pot and there's a garnishee order or otherwise an IT-88 issued, it cannot be reversed. So gone is that part of your savings to go towards taxation. If you want to know more about what I'm saying, the South African Revenue Services actually has a very big piece of consumer education on their website as well. So do we on our consumer website, but have a look at what is on SARS's website.
Yeah, thanks, Lelani. I think what I'm picking up from this is if even SARS are giving you a big red warning to say, think about it before accessing these funds, I think it's something that we have to take very seriously as consumers. And I think it just highlights the need to talk to a professional, to talk to a certified financial planner before you make a decision either way to go for those funds or not. But just talking about taxes generally, Jason, it looks like only now taxes are becoming topical again, or taxes are topical at tax year end, or maybe when the Minister of Finance is announcing the new tax brackets, but it sort of is non-existent to the average consumer in terms of their long-term retirement planning. So if you can just maybe shed a bit of light, what role does tax planning play in the longer-term financial planning mechanism or financial planning strategy for consumers?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ronald. I think it's so important, and I just want to, before I move on to just how we, as a profession, use tax planning in everything that we do actually. I think just on the two-part stuff, I think as a financial planner, generally we would keep our clients aligned to their goals and to their objectives. And there's two-part scenarios thrown a spanner in the works in our plans, for our clients, because we have put together a retirement plan that's specific for a retirement plan. It's for retirement, and now you're wanting to access retirement money. And I think when we're looking at any of these decisions, you have to look at what your goal was originally. Has that goal changed? What new things have come up? And then you can decide if the withdrawal is something that you should be doing. But remember that you started saving 20 years ago, 15 years ago, or 5 years ago, or last year in this retirement thing because you decided you wanted to save for retirement. And that's what I wanted to just stress. So in terms of tax efficiency and tax planning and how we do that throughout the financial planning journey, I think tax planning is actually, it underpins all of what we do, because every decision, every solution we put in place, we try and make it the most tax efficient. And that goes from life insurance, even to your car and home insurance. We try and do it as tax efficient as possible. So I think this, as a financial planner, my first kind of thought that goes on in my head is, how can I save on this person's tax? How can I create extra money for them in their disposable income for them to save and invest and to save for retirement? So I think that's the crux of it.
Yeah, if I may also just add, I think one important thing that some consumers may not be aware of is, when you think of a vehicle, such as your pension fund, provident fund, or a retirement annuity as an example, whatever you're contributing into that vehicle is tax deductible, right? And the way I actually try to encourage my clients is, if you take out a retirement annuity today, you almost always guarantee yourself a 13th check. All else equal, you have no other drama, no side hustles, no side gigs, additional income, etc. But if you start a retirement annuity and you don't have any other additional income coming through, then your contribution is tax deductible. If you're employed and you're paying tax on a monthly basis, whatever contributions you actually made to your retirement annuity will be tax deductible. Now, retirement can be something so far in the future, right? But when you actually get your rebate at the end of each year, you could use those funds to actually bump up your savings. So you're getting the tax efficiency, but in the same vein, improving your savings affordability as well. So I want people to also, like you said earlier on, change that mindset. What can I be doing with what I have now to prepare, yes, for the future, but it could also pay me in the immediate foreseen future as well.
If I can add, Ronald, about tax, I think people think about the tax that they pay that gets deducted from their payslip. Once a year we have to do the auto-assessment or whatever the situation might be, and then my tax is done. But tax actually flows through every single part of your life. Somewhere along the line, Sasha's going to put up their hands and say, I want my machine. It could be when you retire, it could be while you're working, it could be when you buy and sell assets, it could be a death, when you get a payout from a policy. So I think it is so important to see a financial planner who can assist you with a tax planning in every single area of your life. And we're talking straight through from budgeting until the day, like Tungai said, when you are 6 feet and then you're not with us anymore, and your family has to deal with the tax issues at that point. You can actually plan for it beforehand.
Can I also just mention a big thing for me? Because I don't think as South Africans we realize the power of actually saving for retirement. Because again, if you touch on that retirement savings options, the RA, the pension fund, the provident fund, all of that money sits outside of your estate, all right? So it also sits outside of your estate and could be a potentially formidable vehicle in terms of wealth transfer. But you're adding that layer of savings into your planning, but at the same time making sure that you're introducing that tax efficiency. And I mean, every individual's plan is going to be different, which is why it's so important to reach out to a certified financial planner, a financial advisory professional, so that we can help you put in place the right structures that suit you and where you want to see yourself in 20, 30, 40 years, but also to make sure that the quality of the advice you're getting is absolutely spot on.
Well, thanks, Tungai. So it's safe to say that your kids are not a retirement plan or a retirement strategy, but you're absolutely spot on. I mean, if you look at your payslip, and I just want the consumers out there to do themselves a favor, those who perhaps are not very familiar with their payslip, when you look at the deductions that are there, the tax man is the one who really takes up a lot of, in most instances at least, a lot of your funds. So just making use of a professional, a certified financial planner, is very important to ensure that your tax affairs are more tax efficient. And you must pay your fair share. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but it really must be that, just the fair share. And if you can be more efficient with that, then you definitely need to try and do that. So look, I'm liking the discussion and where it's going, particularly around some of the practical tools that or advices that or tools that we are being exposed to today. But I just wanted to remind the consumers out there and our viewers that we have a website, a consumer website, which is fpimymoney123.co.za. If you can access that website, you will find very useful tools from things like budgeting, or also how to access a financial planner. So I just wanted to remind everybody to please take the time to go and look at that for some very practical tools. Now, to bring the conversation back again, some uniquely South African situations now that I want us to dive into. And maybe Tunga, I can start with you. We've heard about what others call black tax or the sandwich generation. This is basically unique expenses or expenditures that South Africans are faced with that are uniquely South African in a lot of ways. Do you maybe just want to unpack what that is and what you're seeing in practice, and some practical tips that you can take away with, perhaps?
So I want to actually just put it out there. We call it black tax, but it is a universal thing actually, which is why I think some people will call it a sandwich generation or a caregiver syndrome, whatever it may be in your own culture. But what I found is that when your parents or guardians take you to school, all right, there's an inherent expectation that you will pay back at some point in time. And it's a cultural expectation. No one sits you down after you finish school to be like, my child, now that you are done,
I'm going to take all
here is
your
the grocery list, here is the electricity bill, here is the rental or the mortgage bill. It's an unspoken expectation, right? So you walk out of varsity, you get your first job, and then there is this unspoken expectation that I need to do something for my family. And it actually manifests in South Africa in different ways. Some people will then take their siblings to school, all right? Some people will then renovate the homestead, all right? So the family home, they start doing renovations, etc. Some people will buy their parents a car. So it manifests in different ways. Sometimes it's just literally sending your parent an amount of money every single month, even if they don't ask it, because there's that expectation that they spent all this money investing in you, now you have to give back something.
Do you think there's a responsibility on the other side? So there's the expectation and responsibility that they feel?
So I think it's both. So some people feel there's that expectation, the obligation, and some parents actually expect it because they say, I took you to school, all right? I'm now sitting at home, I don't earn an income, what do you want me to eat?
Yeah.
So without even asking you for the money, they'll just send you a message, no food at home. And that's it. Without them asking you, can you please send us grocery money, you start feeling bad. Oh my goodness, my parents have sacrificed so much, they did so much for me, I actually just need to help them out. And that's what it always comes out as, I'm helping, all right? But I think where we tend to actually fall short is we don't manage the expectations. So if I'm on a graduate program and I'm earning 20,000 Rand, if I'm very, very lucky, how much of that 20,000 can I actually afford to give, all right, for the sustainability of that household, given that I'm also trying to build my own financial career. So I think it's so important that, yes, the pressure might be there, and sometimes you actually cannot do anything about it because you're literally their last option. You're their last resort. So to manage those expectations and have a conversation, family meeting, and say, you know what, I can afford 1,000 Rand every single month without having to break my back or having to borrow. All right, what can we do with what I have now and what I can afford? And it's also not to say that you're going to be given 1,000 Rand till Jesus comes back. No. Next year, if you get a salary increase, you have again another family meeting. You know what, I can now afford 1,500. And you gradually grow in terms of the help you're giving them, but it also becomes sustainable. There's a report that actually came out that showed that because people don't manage these expectations, it takes an average individual who does have black tax 10 years after graduating to purchase their first property. That's massive. And yet, if you had just managed the expectation, allowed yourself to be building whilst you're helping, you could actually have done more with what you have in a shorter space of time.
That's so good. Oh, thanks, Tunga. I'm really understanding where you're coming from, because there's a sense almost that, you know, to be part of the family, there's a subscription that you have to pay. But I like what you said, that it's not a uniquely black thing or something restricted to just one culture. I don't know, Jason, Alani, if you'd like to add to that, maybe from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, in my culture, you know, one of the examples is because you want to alleviate the pressure from your parents, because you may only have one parent left. The father maybe already passed away, the mother most probably already passed away. So the one parent, you want to alleviate the pressure from that one parent, so you start helping your siblings who has been unemployed for all sorts of different reasons in the current economic environment. I mean, we are sitting in South Africa with an unemployment rate of 32.9%. If we look at the millions that we are in South Africa, we are about, give or take, 61 million in South Africa. And then you can quickly start making the maths to see that's quite a big portion of the population that is unemployed. So within my own family, I've had the challenge. We had unemployed siblings, and we had to all jump in to help that sibling, because the last thing you want is for the sibling plus their children who's also not working to move into your home. So you have to make a plan to help that family, just for the sake of peace within your own family. So it comes in different shapes and forms, and unemployment is a reality, which is why the youth unemployment programs that we have is so important in South Africa. And maybe just an overall shout out, please see if you can assist, you know, unemployed youth as much as you can. Every little contribution helps improving our country's future. So that's just an example from my side. Nikki as well, I would like to hear from her as well. Sorry, I don't mean to jump, Jason. Nikki's just very quiet today.
We're all dealing with this in some way, shape or form, where you still have kids in the house that you have to look after, but you also have to look after parents who are getting older, and some extended family, just because there is such a big need. We're in the situation where we've got a parent in a care facility, and the money has to come from somewhere. And I think the most important thing when we deal with this type of situation is when you sit in front of your financial planner or financial advisor, to actually be very honest about the responsibilities, what it's going to cost you, and speak through the problems and make sure that it's built into your budget, built into your estate planning, built into your retirement fund planning, because there might be a claim when the person passes away against your pension fund. So there's really quite a bit of planning to do, and I think it's so important that you're honest and share the details with your financial planner to help guide you. It can also be that independent person that you're speaking to can give you some clarity and help you through those difficult conversations that you might have to have with an extended family, like two guys said. I'm just thinking of elderly parents who are still supporting children in some way, shape or form, because they feel it's responsibilities. And we're seeing that manifest in our own family, where we're saying that we have to close that tap a little bit, because someone has to care for you at the end. You can't give all the money away now. So that balance is what we're struggling with at this point.
Wow. Sorry, I just want to quickly piggyback off what you just mentioned. Yes, sorry, Jason.
No, please. You guys listen, I'm probably the least qualified to speak about black tax, I can tell you.
So I think to Nikki's point, one of the things I've started coaching clients is moving people from entitlement to empowerment.
Amen.
All right?
Yes.
Because remember, there's this unspoken expectation, there's this responsibility you need to take over. But if people are still able-bodied, so those people that are sitting at home that actually don't have any income, move them away from getting that 500 Rand every single month from you to a point where, and I've seen one of my clients do this, the cousin came and they asked for 1,000 Rand. And she said, you know what? I've gone for coaching. I spoke to a financial planner. What I can actually afford is 500 Rand. Go and find someone else who can help you with the other 500 Rand. All right.
Yeah.
That was the first client. Another client then said, "Oh, you want money for your school kit? What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 200 Rand. Find something that you can buy at Macro, whatever shop, and resell it at school." And you know what? Within a space of 3 months, this child had actually raised the money that was required for the school kit, but it was enabling so that they could take responsibility for their own need. So they were given the startup capital, nothing too fancy, but just through simple buying and selling in their community at school, they were actually able to raise the funds that were required for them to actually buy this sporting kit. So I think it's important that also in helping to plan forward to alleviate this financial pressure or this cultural pressure, we need to migrate people from the entitlement to some form of enablement.
No, I like that. From entitlement to empowerment. That's
the
very
hashtag.
powerful.
We have to trademark that.
I really love
It's
that.
going on Twitter.
Well, thank you so much for that, Singa. I think it is a really, really relevant and poignant point. And maybe just the last question that I have on this point before we move on, and I'm not trying to build CFP professionals as psychologists, but is there a role for the financial planner in facilitating some of these discussions within the family? Because it's all well and nice to talk about it in platforms such as these, but I know there's a lot of South Africans who are really struggling with having those difficult conversations, particularly with elderly extended family, based on all these cultural sort of undertones and beliefs that have sort of been ingrained in us. So what's the role for financial planning in all of this, do you think?
Can I take this on?
Of course.
I honestly think that we are an emotional support, number one, along the journey of financial planning. And when we have these difficult discussions, every discussion that is difficult needs a mediator. Bottom line, if it's at the office, if it's wherever, you need a mediator. And I think a professional that knows what they're talking about, that has your back, that also understands the situation, and it has a outsider's perspective of what the situation looks like, and then they can mediate that conversation. I think that is very, very valuable, and I don't think it's done enough.
Yeah, what I'll do, I'll add to that. So I did mention that FPI is an affiliate of the Financial Planning Standards Board, and the curriculum for financial planners has actually been updated after the global pandemic, where we realized that people need to work with trained professionals more often. So just for the young one that's listening to us now, you go, I want to be a certified financial planner, like Tunga or like Jason sitting next to me, become a certified financial planner because our country needs you. So if you look in the curriculum, we actually train you as a professional how to work with emotional biases. So what is a bias? This is when you've got a belief about money, but your belief is wrong. And this is why it's important to work with a financial planner. And if you go up, but where do I find a certified financial planner? You can go to www.fpi.mymoney123.co.za, click on the link, find a financial professional. And in there you can put in your sublet and it will give you all the financial professionals. We have certified financial planners, we have financial services advisors, as well as registered financial practitioners. So click on that link to find a professional close to you. Thanks, Ronald.
Oh, thanks,
I have to do marketing here.
No, absolutely. No, thanks for that, Alani. I think it's a good point perhaps to pivot into the next section there's some misconceptions around financial planning as a profession. So, of course, today, thanks to the FPI, we do have certified financial planners amongst our midst. And please keep the questions coming. I'm just looking at our chat box. It's a bit quiet today, so please don't be shy. We want to hear from you. But one of the common misconceptions around financial planners, and I'll pause this to you, Nikki, you're in charge of the certification program of CFP professionals in South Africa, is that financial planning is for the rich. I need to have a certain amount of assets for me to be able to approach a financial plan. In fact, we were at Leader Race a couple of weeks ago, and someone in the crowd said, look, I haven't seen a financial planner because my payslip does not have enough. Which was funny, but sad at the same time. So, Nikki, is that true? Do you need to be wealthy to see a CFP professional?
Absolutely not. Financial planning is supposed to be a journey. And just as you take a journey from being employed for the first time, receiving that first paycheck, and what do you do with that first paycheck? Even before that, if you're a student and you have got a bursary, let's say for example, you have to manage that money, you already need some financial planning skills. So then you start working, you might meet someone, get married, have kids for the first time. Everybody in their normal life works on a curve of starting out, building wealth, getting yourself into debt and buying a house, and then in your later years actually, getting to a point where you've got something that might be seen as worth planning for. But how are you going to get there if you don't already start with your first paycheck? So I think it is so important that financial planning, definitely if you're wealthy, there's no question about it, you need a certified financial planner. But when you're just starting out and you're starting on that journey to set your needs and objectives already there and plan your journey, is so very, very important. And it is not just for the rich, it is actually for everybody.
Jason, I know you want to chime in here, but I want to ask you directly. Do you have clients who are, you're a regular South African who's got a payslip, and maybe they're starting out, like Nikki said, they're starting out in their career. Do you actually practically have clients like that?
Yeah, no, I love this question because I took it on myself about 2 years ago to build a practice with people that I can work with forever. And a lot of youngsters, I've seen it in our industry, we think that it's the wealthy that need financial planning. But I've had a lot of youngsters come to me and they say, I've just started my job. This is what I need to do. And I don't earn anything off this. So as a financial planner, I don't charge them for this advice. I pay for the coffee myself. And we'll sit down and we'll have a conversation. But over the last 2 years, I've made it a point of educating and helping as many youngsters and people that think that they don't need a planner. In order for me to have a client in 10 years' time that I've guided to financial freedom, and just from the start, first 5 years, I actually have an example of a client who I did this with. It was an 8-step process of trying to get them out of debt, budgeting, all these things, and we worked a journey, for 2 years. And after that, they decided to buy a house, and I could do the insurance for the house. And they started to earn more, and they could afford some income protection. So I provided some income protection for them. And then they decided to say, you know what, I've just had a baby and we need a baby fund and I just want to save for my child's education one day. We started doing that. So I think financial planners actually need to wake up a little bit and put ourselves out there to help everybody out there, because that's what we have for. I think we need to educate people up front. We need to help people up front. And then we will have a long-lasting, trustworthy, good relationship with the person that we've helped get to a point where we both are smiling at the end of the day. And I think that is my dream for this industry.
I want to quickly add, and can I be your client number one? So yes, there you go. So what I hear here is there's another myth buster in that a financial planner only sells policies, and you can hear from what Jason has just said that's not the truth. The policy is like the doctor giving you a prescription to say go and buy this and this pill. The policy is just a remedy to the problem that you have, which is to provide for the baby fund, which is to make sure that you're covered in all angles from a financial wellness point of view. So financial planner is definitely your partner in your holistic financial planning. So I want to bust that myth once again. Financial planners are not about just selling policies, maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago, but remember our profession has evolved over the past 50 years. If financial planning is 50 years old, it was developed in the US where a group of people came together and said, let's start setting standards for financial planning. So yes, it is only 50 years old, but it's a growing profession. And I'm sure you can see from the responses that we've had from our STEAM panel that you have to work with a financial planner.
I really like that, and I like the example that the chair of our board, Kirsty Scully, mentioned at LeaderX, that look, it's not to say financial planning is entirely free all the time throughout the journey of the client. And the example that she used was in the medical profession. If you go to a doctor, you will expect to pay some sort of a consultation fee. But what I'm just excited to hear today is that, as financial planners, there is definitely an intention to go about and help the client as they navigate their journey. But another thing that I've noticed, and maybe Lelani, I'll ask you to come in now, is because of some of these misconceptions, the misconception that certified financial planners are not accessible. we're starting to see a lot of people go to social media for hints and tips on how to navigate their financial journeys. Can you tell us a little bit about this phenomenon and the line from your side?
I am extremely passionate about this topic. It's, you know, when you have an influencer in your life, you can have a good influencer and a bad influencer. There's something new called the Finfluencer. So what is a Finfluencer? It's somebody giving financial advice on a social media platform where they've got the lights, they've got the camera, they are the action. But most of the time there's a massive conflict of interest with these influencers because they are getting paid by someone to push some products or whatever message that they need to actually push. So there's very interesting research. I love reading. I don't know what is trending on Netflix because I'm that nerd that will always read research. So there was a beautiful paper that came out from the World Economic Forum around about July around the future of financial advice. And a very big focus, seeing that we are talking about World Investor Week from IOSCA and also the World Financial Planning Week now in October, there's research they actually talk about finfluencers. And it's a big focus from a risk management point of view for IOSCA. Now again, remember right in the beginning I mentioned that in South Africa, our representative is the Commissioner from the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. And if you look at the FSCA's 3 to 5 year strategy, one of the very big focuses for next year from our regulator is open finance. It's also a very big focus to start looking at the risk that finfluencers actually post. And for those consumers, if you want to know more about these warnings, they are actually issuing Warning Wednesdays. There would be a warning from the Conduct Authority to say, watch out for this person, watch out for that person. And it's not just influencers, Ronald. I think what really what gives me shivers down my spine is the younger generation is most of the time in front of their laptop, their computer, their digital advice, where they are listening to these influencers. And be very careful for deepfake. So what is deepfake? This is where you have Elon Musk. It looks like Elon, it sounds like Elon, and he's telling you, here's an investment, I'm invested, this is the growth. If it sounds too good to be true, it is too good to be true. So just use discernment, and I'm going to have to say this, speak to a financial planner.
Oh, thanks, Lalani. I think if I can just maybe one quick follow-up question on that, because I'm sitting here as a consumer and saying, look, I've seen some CFP professionals online and doing very good work. And how do I spot the difference? How do I know if the person I'm talking to is bona fide?
Yeah, there's definitely a difference. So if you do have a professional that is maybe having podcasts or it's a certified financial planner, you'll find that across the globe, by the way. So you do have a lot of CFPs in the US. In Italia, with FPSB Italia, they are trending quite good, the certified financial planner. So you will find in South Africa that we have financial advisors that do trend quite well socially. So how do you do that? Well, you verify, number one, that they are licensed with the Conduct Authority. But I'm going to say it again, go to FPI My Money 123, and you can actually verify on that website if it is a financial planner who is a member of the Financial Planning Institute. So your key to success lies in verifying if that person, if they say they're a CFP, please make sure. It is unfortunately, Ronald, that you will find that people will say, I am a CFP. But what they have done, they might have only obtained the qualification and then they think immediately they're a CFP. There's 4 things you need to do. The 4 E's: education, which is your qualification, the experience you need. You have to sit for a board exam. We call it a board exam, but at FPI it's the Professional Competency Exam. And you also have to do an annual declaration every year. And there's nothing wrong with asking your financial planner or financial advisor, are you up to date with your continuous professional development points? In short, your CPD points. Because if your advisor is not up to date to CPD with his or her CPD points, how do you know the advice they're giving is actually relevant? So there's nothing wrong with asking those questions.
Sorry, Ronald, I just wanted to chat on this influencer thing.
Yeah.
I think a very good way to, because I've seen it on my own feed, because I'm a financial planner, I like these things, and then I see it all over the place. And I think the red flag for me is if the person is continuously speaking about product and trying to show rewards and benefits. Financial advice or education comes down to basics, habits, things that have been around for 50 years. These rewards and benefits is not financial advice. That is a product advice that you give around a product. And a lot of these guys are pushing a specific agenda, which is not a bad thing. They have a business to run, they are tied to a specific company. It's not a bad thing. But it's just to be aware of, oh, this person is from this company, and I know that they are pushing these products. I want financial advice, this is not where I'm going to get it. And then you can find it somewhere else. Or you can speak to them and not just listen to them and actually get some advice first before you move on. So that's just my 2 cents.
If I may also say, remember what we said earlier on, that your financial planner is there to help you with accountability, all right? If you feel a strong hunch about X and all this amazing content they're releasing, find a professional and just quality check it, right? Quality check it. That's all you need to do to just say, you know what, I heard X, Y, and Z, could this be true? And I've actually coached my clients to say, if someone comes to you with an offer, I'm open to making more money, I'm open to more streams of income, but just be courteous enough to ask me, because I don't want to be rescuing you when you're drowning in that thing. Can we find a lifeboat that we can swim away from that thing before you actually get into it? So just prove, like, get your financial planner to proofread the fine lines on that contract before you sign it. Get your financial planner to do a quality check. Sometimes for me, I've had situations where a client will come and they'll tell you they've been promised, they've been offered debt, all right, with these specific terms. Sometimes it's as simple as just doing a review, all right? Someone comes to you and they tell you about this amazing product online. Do a review. The masses never lie. People will go online, they will review this thing. Do your own due diligence as well. Get a professional to quality check it with you, provide that amazing accountability, but also research what are other people saying about this particular product or this particular information or this particular advice, because I think there's a lot of content out there. There's never been an era where information is readily at hand, but obviously because there's just so much, sometimes you could get caught up in being able to check out the credibility. And that's why we're here as
Looks like you're the DJ at your life.
Over above Finfluences, AI is a thing too. And getting advice from AI, you know, you go into ChatGPT and you type in what is my retirement plan in 10 years, and it gives you an answer.
AI cannot pass our competency exam.
Sure.
Because it's a recommendation suited to a certain person.
Sure.
And it can't do that directly. So there's no way that AI will be ever be able
And that's
to do
you
the type
hit
of
a good point.
financial
Individualism
Yes.
in a plan. It's very specific to your needs, and that's what we do. We speak to you as a person and we sort out your money. It's not about your sister's money, it's not about anybody else's. You know, it's your money and how it's working for you. And that's it.
And I think also just to mention in terms of the AI, remember AI takes information based on what it's picking up all over the internet, all right? There's no one to check the quality of the content that's being used to create that outcome, which is where we come in, because I'm going to look at you and say, Jason, based on your lifestyle, the way you're eating,
cut it down.
Cut it down, because 20,000 rand a month will not be enough. Or I'll tell you, Jason, you know what? You love traveling internationally. You love Gucci.
You love eating.
You love eating well. 20,000 is not going to be enough. Let's plan for 30,000 rand. Okay. I'm now getting into the specifics of what you need. A robot, whatever you give it, is what it gives you out. It doesn't reason with you. It doesn't tell you, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Literally, you put in whatever it is you want it to tell you, and it will tell you exactly what you've put in. Garbage in, garbage out. We're there to be a filter, to help you think through some of the things you probably would never have thought about.
That's another hashtag quote.
Yeah.
We're there to be a filter.
It reminds me, I know we have to wrap up, but you know, as Tungai was talking about it, the noise, and my team knows me, I always link something. There was a program, sure it must have been the 80s, I can't remember, with a little robot. and I've made a noise that says biddy biddy uh-oh. So remember that. So if you take advice from AI, especially financial advice, I want to say to you biddy biddy uh-oh. But Ronald, sorry, I had to make that
No,
noise.
absolutely. I think it is quite memorable, and you shouldn't trust robots at all. Look, and I think I've got a question, and thank you so much for the user who brought this question through from Instagram, and I want to link it to the discussion. You mentioned, Jason, a couple of red flags around some of the Finfluences, and really some of them are scams. Let's call it what it is. And the most vulnerable communities are always those underserved communities. Those people with very limited access to information. They're most desperate in most instances because they don't have the resources. And the question that has come through now, and I'll pose it to Lulani and Nikki, perhaps from a consumer awareness perspective, is what role does the FPI play in bridging that gap, that financial inclusion gap that typically exists in underserved communities?
Yeah, well, from my point of view, we need more financial planners and more financial advisors. So please, when you are young and you don't know what to become one day, please become a financial advisor, please become a certified financial planner. We need more financial advisors. So I mentioned the regulatory plan. One of the big regulatory plans in South Africa from a National Treasury point of view, National Development Plan, is to have more financial inclusion. So from an FPI point of view, we are involved in consumer education. So you will find on FPI My Money 123 that there's a lot of material on there to help you with financial education. So we do help from a financial advisor point of view. The very basics is budgeting. Have a budget that's going to work for you. So from a financial education point of view, Jason, you alluded to that a little bit earlier on, that's what financial advisors also do. But as the Financial Planning Institute of Southern Africa, we are very involved at various committees. Nikki will talk about that, where we set standards for financial education in South Africa. I was at the Financial Sector Conduct Authority's financial literacy speech, where young Mr. Luna won the competition. He is from KwaZulu-Natal. Again, well done to the winner, the young winner. He's 17 years old, and he spoke about starting a business in South Africa. At that point in time, it's important that we then create awareness again around consumer education. So there's things like that happening in the schools as well. So if you're part of a school and you want to partake in competitions like that, please do. So there's a lot happening all across the country, from the Financial Planning Institute all the way through to National Treasury. And it starts with financial education. We can never do enough. And I have to say this, financial education starts at home.
Yes. And I think if I can just offer the opportunity to anyone listening, the Financial Planning Institute has got a workshop available that covers basic financial principles, things like budgeting, debt, a little bit about insurance and risk and your will and so on. And it is completely free to anyone who would like to organize a workshop. What we then do as the Financial Planning Institute, we ask one of our lovely certified financial planners to volunteer for us, go into the community that needs it, and offer this workshop. It includes things like a workbook, it includes things like a budget template, just to teach people the basic principles about financial education in South Africa, because there's not enough of it. There's a really big gap.
And Ronald, for those members online who may be listening, is FPI does have a memorandum of understanding MOU with the CISA Foundation, and where we are working with the CISA on consumer education to serve underprivileged communities, more in the rural areas, around consumer education. But back to you. I wish we had 5 hours, but I think we have like 3 minutes
left.
I
think we literally have 3 minutes, and we've got 2 more questions that I would really just like to pose. I think the first one, Nikki, you sort of touched on it. It was, how can I become part of the FPI family to help feed proper financial literacy out there? And I think the question is twofold. One way is to become a member, and then the other way is precisely what you said around the consumer. So I don't know if you just want to touch quickly on how to become a member side of things.
If you want to become a member of the Financial Planning Institute, we have a pathway that you can follow, where you come just out of school, where you will have to complete some education requirements. You'll have to get a little bit of experience in the field, and you will then have to sit for one of our assessment processes, our examinations. So that is the way to become a member. All the information is available on www.fbi.co.za. But if you want to get involved from a consumer angle, what I would suggest is to look at our FBI My Money 123.co.za website, where we host all our content for consumers. There is a place where you can let us know that you are interested, and we can send you information on workshops, newsletters, information on things that you can join or look at, or whatever the situation might be. And we would love to engage with anybody who needs some financial literacy and education or has some ideas. Please contact us.
Cool. Okay, I think there's one last question that came through. Again, thank you to the people that have put the questions through, and I'll pose this one maybe to you, Nalani.
Sure.
The question is, how do I vet that a financial plan is legit? And I think that question again is true for all. Because there's a FSCA component, and obviously the FBI component from a licensing and professional membership perspective. But Nalani, I don't know if you'd like to unpack that for us a little bit, please.
You always need to verify. There isn't an onus on you as a consumer from a due diligence point of view. If somebody sets up a financial advisor, you can go to the Financial Sector Conduct Authority's website. They actually have a tool there that says Verify Financial Services Provider. You can go and verify. If you cannot find that person on the website, phone the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. If you still can't verify them, please come through to the Financial Planning Institute of South Africa. We will help you to verify if somebody's legit. And especially if somebody says, I am an RFP professional, I'm an FSA professional, I'm a certified financial planning professional, we do have that tool on our website. But if you can't find somebody there, you are most welcome to email us, phone us. It is your responsibility to verify that if somebody says, I am a financial advisor, to verify that they actually are. There is unfortunately a few fraudsters out there, but we've got a very robust regulator, and I want to compliment them on the work they've been doing over the past few years to get rid of the fraudsters.
Well, thanks, Nalani. I think we've literally got about a minute left. So I just want to fire some quick fire questions to our panel today. And just to close us off, and I'll start with you, Nikki. What's one financial myth that you'd like to bust right now?
We've already spoken about it, but you don't need to be a certain age to get financial advice. Financial advice starts from your first paycheck and maybe even before then.
Oh, lovely. Thanks, Nikki. And to go over to you, what's the one thing people should cut from their budgets today? I know you touched on it earlier.
Take out, please, guys.
Stay in.
Stay in. Look at home. It's healthier, and you get to bond over a family table anyway.
I love that.
Yeah, good luck with that. Jace, maybe over to you. What's the best financial advice you've ever received?
Give, save, spend. That's the order that you should do it. Wow, that's it.
Awesome. I like that. We'll probably unpack it after this session.
Yeah.
Nalani, over to you. Right, and this is a very important one. If you could give only one piece of advice, financial advice, for life to a person, what would it be and why?
Well, it's all about the theme. Live your today, plan your tomorrow. So what I do want to say is start today. I always want to say the guts, because we have a lot of people that has the ostrich syndrome. You'll rather put your head in the sand. You don't want to download your financial bank statement because you know what's going on there. Download your financial bank statement today. Have a look at what's really going on there, and have a conversation. Should you have a partner, a spouse, or a friend, have the conversation with your spouse or with your partner, because it makes your relationship stronger in the family. But it's like a triangle. You've got two partners at the side, and you've got the financial plan at the top. The closer you both work with your financial planner or your financial professional, the closer your relationship will actually get, because you trust each other to talk about finances. And that's always a very, very tough conversation. And maybe in closing, I wrote an article around will. And a lot of the people saying, and that's in your last testament, a lot of the people at home say we're not going to talk about debts because then you call debts. But if you don't have a valid will in place, think about the ones left when you're no longer here. So speak to your financial planner is what I want to say. But start today. Live your today, plan your tomorrow.
Thanks, Lani, and thank you to all the panelists who joined us today here at the Financial Planning Institute for World Financial Planning Day. It has really been an insightful conversation. If I can just leave one takeaway for call to action rather to our consumers and our listeners out there is, please visit fpimymoney123.co.za. It is a wealth of knowledge and resources on all things financial planning, all things financial literacy, but most importantly, that's your gateway. If you want to get access to a professional, to a certified financial planner, this is the first place you should go to. And something that I was mentioned also is, please verify. Whoever you speak to, there is resources available to verify at the Financial Services Conduct Authority, on the FPI website. Please verify that whoever you're speaking to is bona fide. But again, thank you to everybody and thank you to our panelists. It was a really good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Is this a new way
This
to...
is